Hey, everybody, thanks for being here tonight. Thanks, Bryn. Jefferson, always, thank you. I'm happy to be here to celebrate the work of essayist Isaac Weil. I've had the pleasure of knowing Isaac for over 10 years, I think, right? I first met him at a CSU summer arts workshop, one of my first summers here, where his curiosity, kindness, and intelligence were clearly evident. So it was with much excitement for me years later when I saw his application for our MFA program. Well, he may have taken a slightly longer, more winding path to the degree than some. For me, it's really been a true pleasure to work with Isaac on this journey. He's always impressed me with his heart and his openness to learn, his willingness to take risks in his writing, and his ability to make me feel like everything I say is somehow interesting or important. If you know him, you know Isaac is a really good listener and a sponge as a student. He will look up at you with his curious eyes and his wide smile, nodding and affirming every word you say, even if you're telling him he needs to kill a darling and cut something out of his essay. But perhaps more importantly, Isaac gives the same kindness and care to his fellow students' work, making him a cherished member of our writing community. Isaac's voice on the page in the last couple of years has achieved a level of polish and consistency that is admirable and eternally compelling. There's an economy and torque to his writing that imbues even the simplest descriptions with aching precision and beauty. He combines lyrical lines and sentences with evocative imagery and strong characters, writing about family and love and mental health. Isaac's essays are vivid, sensual, and fantastical, filled with childhood wonder, but also tinged with something darker, an understanding of things like security and safety and how darkness thickens. A simple bath or a game of basketball becomes a tableau in which much larger ideas play out regarding friendship, intimacy, and identity. Here's the dirty little secret of the writing world. It's not as hard to be a good writer as it is to be a good literary citizen. Isaac somehow manages to accomplish both. Please join me in welcoming him.
Hello, everybody. Oh my God, those introductions. I mean, the student writing, of course, is why we come, but those introductions are just icing on the cake. I want to thank first my mom and dad. I love you guys. Thank you also to my grandparents, my Aunt Elaine and cousin Ocean. To the whole extended Weil family, I love all of you. Thank you to my found family, Karen and Auburn, and my friends, Alan and Newton. I love you all too. Thank you to my old writing group, Polly, my surrogate grandmother, love you, Polly. Sky, Richard, and sometimes Vita. True friends in writing and more for a passionate, unsure, awkward kid. Thank you to the Castaneda Garai family for totally accepting me as just another oddball member. Thank you to my colleagues, my fellow readers, my friends in the program. You provoked, enriched, and supported me in all the best ways. Thank you to my committee, Stephen, John, and Samina. To all my teachers, Bryn, and Celeste, and my Durham, who not only provoked, enriched, and supported me, but showed me a level of cool and understanding that's gently enabled me to be here today. Thank you, Jefferson, for organizing this event and making the whole MFA program function. And Fresno Filmworks was also a huge thing for me growing up in Fresno. Lily, te quiero mucho. You're an amazing person, and I love you more than words can describe. And Lucy, at 12:27 p.m. on this day, you were born exactly 8 weeks ago. I love you so much. I don't think you'll ever stop blowing my mind. So I'll read two essays. This is the first one, Binge Bots. I was 2 years old when I first fell in love. I know I was 2 years old when I first met Auburn Brzezinski because my mom told me the story. But loving him, is something I know from the glow of years of childhood memory. As my mom tells it, she saw them. Karen, Avram's mom, Bradley, his stepdad, and Avram, orange carols ringing his freckled face, parading across the lawn at Temple Beth Israel. My mom taught art class at the Sunday school. I was too young for preschool, and I imagined myself trailing her in the classroom causing trouble, fidgeting with various colored pipe cleaners, stabbing my fingers on their sharp hidden wires, fumbling towards the hot glue guns with their bright steel tips hot enough to float tissue paper on a low table through the door, before my mom grabs my arm, sits me down, and tells me to stay. My mom says they look glamorous as she watched them through the window walking across the lawn. Karen tall and Bradley taller. Karen wearing thigh-high combat boots, and Avram large and curious and gangly, deaf with words, expressive with his hands, talking or drawing, feet and head too large for his 4-year-old age. When they walk into the classroom, I'm sure I try to hug him, as I'm told I tried to hug everyone when I was 2. Karen tells my mom that Avram is interested in making pottery. I want to make Chinese pots, Avram tells her. And so my mom invites him over to our house, and they play around with clay for an afternoon in the backyard. X-ray. He is 2 years older, but nearly twice my height. He can rest his elbow comfortably on my head. I learn the meaning of mine when I give him one of my Star Wars X-rays, and he doesn't give it back. Soon, he is my love and my leader. Rainforest bath. We invent a new way to take a bath. Taking advantage of my house's windowless, skylightless bathroom, we stuff rolled up towels against the thresholds of the doors to block excess sunlight. Then we fill the bath with steaming water. We play with our Batman toys with the lights on, prepping them for the coming monsoon rains, the storm that could kill any Batman unprotected by Tupperware and washcloth shelter. Once we've double-checked that the Batmans are secured in their bunkers, after I've checked on Avram's and Avram has checked on mine, we turn the shower on as cold as it can get. I leap out of the bath and run naked to the light switch, flick it, and the world warps. I feel my way back to the tub by the torrential sound of the shower. As I climb in, the tub expands. A pool, a lake, the dark shallows of a long and snaking river. I don't know the distance to the walls of our small bathroom anymore, and yet we are enclosed. The darkness thickens with steam. My chest fills with thrill. I'm alive and secure with Avram. Our heads pelted with freezing rain, the heavy, still warm tub water protecting our legs, keeping us warm in this other world we've created. Mummy. Every night I ring my stuffed animals around me for protection. A yellow corduroy elephant I call Ellie, a plush tapir I call Taper, and a half dozen other animals I'm not imaginative enough to name. I pull my sheets over my head, an energy shield that will protect me from Brendan Fraser's mummy, who stole the tongue of that poor man so it could speak, and the lungs of that screaming man on the train so he could breathe. I finger the cat whisker my mom threaded through my pajamas to guard me from monsters, and call on the ghost of my mom's mom to protect me, as my mom told me to do when I'm too scared to sleep. Rama Elaine, please protect me. Logistics. Within a few years, my mom tells me that Karen and Avram are moving in with us. Karen is split with Brad. Mom and Dad sleep in separate bedrooms. My mom and Karen have become close friends over the years. They've known each other. They love each other as their marriages fail. So to me, the news is good. This is going to be like one long sleepover. Avram and I plot to sneak out of the house every night, sketching floor plans, mapping our midnight escape routes into the street. Avram brings with him Matisse, his life-size stuffed animal gorilla, who I've always admired. We built a fort spanning the entire square footage of our bedroom, sheets sloping off the top bunk and vaulted into glowing cathedral ceilings with chairs. Plenty of places to hide and stash storybooks and food, to play games together and imagine. But deep under the bed, whereas a preteen, I'll have audiobooks of Anne Rice novels my mom says are too explicit for me to listen to. It's my favorite place to crawl in the dark. Play. I love playing dress up, darting around the yard in my felt green Peter Pan vest and hat, sheathing a wooden sword with a crossguard in my belt, or frisking around in a fedora and raincoat with a black umbrella too big for me, humming and dancing like Gene Kelly and singing in the rain. But Avram gives purpose and focus to my play. He writes scripts for us to perform and gives me my parts, suggests costumes for my characters. In one play, we commandeer my mom's pots from the kitchen. Avram wears an authentic chef's hat, which I envy, with its white linen and stiff interior, so crisp and official. Before the performance, I stand on a chair to tilt a track light down into a spotlight And with the simple adjustment, the living room has become a stage. Chairs are now props, prop stovetops, and we are now performers. We call our mothers, offer him pops of plush lobster out of one of the pots and makes it dance with his hands and sing with his voice. And Karen and my mom whoop and laugh. Oh, so inventive. Choosing sides. A few years later, I start playing basketball with the older kids down the street. They both have buzz-cut blonde hair and wear t-shirts and gym shorts. They're quiet, talk in nods, and soft, single-word sentences, and they move with a relaxed fluidity until they rush the basket or pull a quick reversal which leaves me spinning. I find this play soothing, not having to talk, just having to move and sweat. After a few weeks of games, Oliver wants to know why I'm always going to the kids' house down the street. I invite him to play. Oliver, for all his talents, is not a coordinated kid. Hey, who's your friend? Can you play? Damn, he's tall. I bet he can dunk. Dude, can you dunk? They toss Oliver the ball. He dribbles once, twice, gangly and duck-footed, his freckled face wide with concentration. He flings a long arc into a hollow bounce from the driveway. The freckled loser can even hit the rim. Loser. Oliver is walking home. I run after him, confused, unable to process how it all fell apart so quickly, or how Oliver was feeling. Why would they hurt Oliver? Is Oliver hurt? Do we hate those kids now? Does basketball suck? As soon as we get home, he goes to the art drawer, pulls out colored pencils and paper. I'm excited now, curious to know what he's doing. I watch Oliver write in long, loopy cursive a declaration of war against our neighbors for, quote, insults to my character. He draws lines around the border, taking his time to cover the names in shades of gold and wheat. I'm entranced. He examines the document, takes it to the kitchen, holds it over the stove, puts the burners into flame. He burns the edges of the paper, singeing old-fashioned authenticity into the declaration. I follow Avram into his mom's bedroom, watching him to learn the rules of this new game, to understand the new terms of my relationship with the blonde boys down the street. From his mom's closet, he takes out a real wool red coat with brass buttons that Karen brought back for him as a gift from a trip to London. I don't have any clothes as thick as this coat. I go to our bedroom to my bedroom closet to see what I can find. The most official and grand outfit I have is my Taekwondo uniform. I also put on a black velvet sombrero stitched with silver sequins to match the richness of Aubrey's brass buttons. We meet in the living room, grab 2 bamboo canes we bought for a few dollars at a yard sale, and I follow Auburn outside into the sunlight, into full view of every house in the neighborhood. We march together, Auburn stiff back, dignified, presents a declaration to the boys. They look at us in disbelief. Red coat, taking uniform, sombrero. I tilt my chin up, as serious as Auburn, trusting that we've come to this confrontation with some kind of real power, though I'm not sure the boys see it as Auburn does, or what they will do. Befuddled, they look at each other. They go into their house and come out with Nerf guns. We run, hiding behind their yard cages. They run, calling out tactical maneuvers, trying to flank us. Half real threat, half play threat. Auburn and I, half play partners, half prey. It's the last time I play basketball with the boys down the street. I've chosen my side. I've chosen my style. This is how I'm going to be. So this second essay doesn't have a title yet. Still kind of fresh. I'm in Fresno in my 30s, and I've agreed to meet my 93-year-old friend Polly at 5:30. It is 5:20, and I haven't left my apartment. I may be reading or listening to a YouTube lecture, something on race or gender or Blake or Star Trek, something urgent and engrossing. And I give myself just another 5 minutes of reading or listening, which rolls on into 10, 15, 20. These illicit minutes are somehow sweet for being at my friend's expense. When I arrive, I see Polly waiting, a dark outline in her window of the spare bedroom of her cottage, peering through the blinds, anticipating my car. She'll greet me at her door with a gentle scold, not the first time. I'm in Berkeley in my 20s, junior year and undergrad, and my final essay is due at midnight. It's 11:15, and I hate the 3 paragraphs I've written, and my notes sprawled across 3 notebooks. I decide I will never pull an all-nighter again, fuck that game. Put on an audiobook and go to sleep. I respond to my professor's email inquiring after my work a week after she sends it. I'm in my 30s at my parents' house, and I miss my best friend's call. Text him that I will call back in 5 minutes, but don't call until 2 days later. Most of those days I watch TV or YouTube. When Polly asks me to explain why, I tell her it's a bad habit I picked up from my parents. She says that I do it to exert control over my friends. Somehow, I once got a hold of an evaluation my eighth grade Hebrew teacher wrote of me. Quote, consistently comes in late to disrupt class and attract attention. Do I seek attention? Do I desire control? What is the nature of the sweetness of tuning out, of submerging myself in the voices and images of people I don't know? Is it fear that compels me to let down myself, friends, and colleagues? What should I be afraid of? In what is Paleolithic art, cave paintings and the dawn of human creativity, John Klotz observes that ancient artists often painted petroglyphs in places either completely untouched by sun or touched by sun from sunrise to sunset. In Peru, for example, in the high altitude valley, artists painted only on the parts of the giant rock face where the valley walls cast a perpetual shadow at all times of day and year, below the sunlight. The Altamira cave in Spain is another example. The people there painted on the exterior wall in direct sunlight. However, the paintings resume not in the twilight chambers, but only once you've penetrated deep enough into the cave's turns so that no light leaks in. I'm in the fourth grade and have won an honorable mention in the Williams-Roy Young Writers Contest. I'm at the award ceremony in Woodward Park. There are picnic tables, an outdoor stage, and grass, wet and muddy from the morning rain. A group of my adult cousins hang at a table, and I go over to them, leaning into the hugs and congratulations. I sit with them, thinking this is where my family is gathered to see me walk on stage and receive the certificate. After 15 minutes, I see my grandmother walking towards me. Go say hi, my mom urges, and I walk to her. I don't notice her face, don't see anger or hurt, but she screams at me, tells me I'm ungrateful, and it was her idea to submit my writing to the contest in the first place, and I ignore her, strut right past to greet the other family members. No, it's too late for her. I'm crying, I'm at the tables again, and I'm crying, and my mom and my woman cousins are encircling me. Eventually one says, go to her, explain that you didn't do it on purpose, and go. Then I go. I see her back, she's turned from me. I tap her back and she's screaming again. I'm back at the hard metal table. I'll never make you go back like that again, says the cousin. But now they're calling the contestant winners to line up on the stage, and I'm crying and ashamed that they brought me forward. This behavior is new to me. It emerged only after both of my friends' mental breakdowns and their split. I don't know how to speak back to this torrent. The European wood bison is one piece of Klotz evidence that the ancient cave paintings were a spiritual practice. From a fissure in a deep Altamira chamber, the thick contours of bison heads emerge, surfacing from another world in the pitch dark, spirits called for reasons I don't understand. In the fifth grade, I'm a surrogate husband for my mom, a best friend for my dad, and the intermediary between my mom and my grandparents. I spent large amounts of my childhood waiting for mom. I grew up in Fresno, and because of the bad air, 100-degree summers, and a late winter that can brew hailstorms, or out of laziness, I resisted walking home after school, 2 miles west on Shaw Avenue from Boytown Elementary to an empty house. I insisted that my mom pick me up, driving across town from her job as a science educator to the museum by the airport, dropping me off at home and then driving back to finish her 12-hour workday. I waited for her at the back gate near the dirt stretch between the blacktop and softball. Half an hour, sometimes an hour after the bustle of kids piling out of school rooms, through the chain link fence and into the waiting cars, and shouting parents clamoring in the street behind the school. I waited, doing nothing in particular, not reading or doing homework, mind and body suspended in the heat, slowly being taken by anger. Feeling unwanted, embarrassed, and worried I might be seen by the maintenance man or a teacher, a small figure walking with purpose off by the classrooms, fearing absently that they would think something of me if they saw me, or come over and ask what I was doing. When it was raining, a teacher would escort me to sit in a wooden pleather chair in the office, the secretary behind the counter growing irritated, since she was not allowed to go home until my mom came. Over time, I cultivated a taste for these nothing spaces of waiting, slipping time and graying out into half dreams, away in a private, disordered, multicolored twilight. The biggest decision I make at my bar mitzvah, among the scripted ritual and performance, is thanking my friends, family, and teachers at the podium, and not thanking my grandparents. In Altamira, paleontologists have found evidence of people living beneath the exterior paintings. Fire ash, bones, and sherds, a staging ground for rituals, the community's spiritual exterior. Inside where light doesn't penetrate, there are no signs of living. According to Klotz, single or small groups of painters traveled the dark, creating art to contact the world inside, beyond the rock face. Travelers into the community's spiritual interior. After Shabbat service, my head is trying to shelter in my belly. Old family friends, who know me, but who I barely know. Benches clasp me close and hold me, an arm encircling my shoulders, their great fists holding my cold hand, gripped in a minutes-long handshake. How are your parents, your grandparents, Faye Ocean asked me, and I'm cringing and swaying. I can't talk, I need to talk. She is a kind adult I need to impress. I escape the social hall, expel myself from the bodies, work myself out of the body of the crowd, and its chatter, sweet cookies, cake, coffee that burns my stomach. In the hallway, I see the lights are off in the sanctuary. I step in and sit in the chair closest to the door, between the spill of light from the hallway and the eternal light shining above the ark. The air is temperatureless, and the eternal light, sculpted plastic flame, still focuses me like the flame of a candle. Thinking back, I want more than escape from myself. I want to mark the space, show that I was there, cry a song at the podium, or undress the Torah of its velvet cover and satin tie, and leave its raw parchment open on the lecture. Pen my name on the walls, or simply walk to the great wall of dead community members and push the light up buttons next to the plaques of my great grandparents' names, Golda and Shia, which we traditionally illuminated only during the anniversary weeks of their deaths. But in the context of that sanctuary, that community interior, the quiet blue carpet and beige walls, the podiums on the Biva, the Torahs put away in the ark, without some shared designated marking wall in that space, I don't know how not to make these self-expressions seem like vandalism. In a deep chamber in Altamira, there's a child's handprint, 7 feet above the cave's floor. The only way the child could have created this mark so high on the cave wall, paleontologists argue, is if he were lifted by an adult who accompanied him, urging him and assisting him. Now, in my present, collecting contacts, obligations, gathering strings in my hand, each attached to a friend or parent or grandparent, teacher or assignment, each tugging with a gentle tension. I run the risk of any one of these strings going totally slack. I pull and there's no one there to pull on, no one there pulling back.